All right, we're gonna start the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. The first item on the agenda is RS 2019-55, Mendez, Stiles, and others, approves a grant from the Davidson County Mental Health and Veterans Court Assistance Foundation to the Davidson County General Sessions Court Division 2 to supplement employee salaries and assist in providing direct assistance to veteran treatment court participants. Is there a motion? Any discussion about this? All in favor, say aye. All right, we approve. RS 2019-56, Mendez Toombs, approves an amendment to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to Davidson County General Sessions Court to provide Tennessee Certified Recovery Court program collection to assist the state in meeting federal reporting requirements.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. It's approved. Resolution 2019-57, Mendez Toombs, approves an amendment to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to the Metro State Trial Courts to provide the Tennessee Certified Recovery Court program to enable the establishment of adult and juvenile drug court programs to address the needs of nonviolent offenders. Is there a second? Any discussion about this one? All in favor, say aye. We recommend approval. RS 2019-58, Mendez, Hauser, and others, approves an amendment to a grant contract for constructing affordable housing between the Metro Housing Trust Fund Commission and Mending Hearts. Is there a motion? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. We recommend approval. Or any opposed? All right, good. We recommend approval. RS 2019-59, Mendez, Pulley, and others, approves a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to the Office of Family Safety to enhance language access services for crime victims in order to break down barriers that prevent individuals from reporting crimes. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-60, Mendez, Pulley, and others, approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to the Office of Family Safety for the Tennessee Human Trafficking Court Program. Is there a motion? Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-61, Mendez, Hurt, and others, approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to promote the proper use of all recommended vaccines and respond to vaccine-preventable diseases in collaboration with the CDC and other partners. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-62, Mendez, Hurt, and others, approves an amendment to the Healthy Start Initiative eliminating racial ethnic disparities grant from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services to the Metro Board of Health to provide a variety of services in reducing infant mortality for pregnant and parenting women. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-63, Mendez, Hurt, and others, approves a homeless management information system grant between the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and Metro Social Services Department Homeless Impact Division to contribute to the national effort to end homelessness. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-64, Mendez, Hurt, Stiles, approves a grant from the Dorothy, Kate, and Thomas F. Frist Foundation to the Metro Social Services Commission, Metro Homeless Impact Division, to benefit the House Nashville program. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019 2019-65, Henderson, Mendez, and others, approves a grant from the Friends of Warner Parks to the Metro Nashville Parks and Recreation Department to provide a sand bin and portalet field blinds at the Percy Warner Golf Course. It's hard to believe we need legislation for that, but is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. All right. RS 2019-66, Mendez authorizes Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Jessica L. Douglas against Metro government in the amount of $15,000. Is there a motion? I heard a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-67 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Mr. Al Amari against Metro government in the amount of $38,500. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-68 authorizes Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Douglas E. Doss against the Metro government in the amount of $18,000. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-69 authorizes the Metro Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Sir McCutcheon against Metro government in the amount of $12,500. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. All right, RS 2019-70, Hancock, Mendez, Hagar, approves a grant from Jarvis Signs to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide a memorial sign in honor of Metro Police Officer Eric Muma near the Neely Benz boat ramp in Peeler Park. And seeing nobody from the committee with their button pressed, I'm going to call on Councilmember Hancock. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to come in and express my support for this resolution, specifically because my predecessor, Bill Pridemore, has worked on this for a very long time. Rodney Jarvis, an upstanding business member of the community, moving to District 9 very shortly, is providing this donation in honor of our lost officer, Mumau, and I think it would be a very great benefit to not only the Metro Nashville Police Department, but also our society as a whole to have that opportunity to memorialize him at Peeler Park Boat Ramp. Thank you.
Thank you so much for continuing Councilman Pridemore's work. I know when the officer died in the line of duty last term, we were all took it as a very serious thing. So I'm glad we're able to do this memorial. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. All right. RS 2019-71, Mendez Pulling Others, approves a DNA capacity enhancement and backlog reduction program grant from the United States Department of Justice to the Metro Nashville Police Department to assist in the purchase of DNA laboratory processing software to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of the forensic biology unit. Is there a motion? Council Lady Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just was wondering, is that match already built into the budget? It says we have a $133,000 match.
Let's call on Mr. McGuire.
I believe it is, yes, but I don't know if the officer in the back wants to add anything.
Hi, Captain Gilder, Metro Police Department. Yes, that was already built into the budget, and they were planning to expend those funds, so this would supplement that.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-72, Mendez, Pulley, and others, approves the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the United States Department of Justice to the Metro Nashville Police Department for specialized training and equipment to ensure personnel maintain needed certifications for criminal investigation and crime reduction initiatives. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-73, Mendez Pulley, approves an amendment to a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metro Nashville Police Department to support the provision of mental health services and criminal justice system advocacy to victims of violent crime. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. Resolution RS 2019-74, Mendez, Murphy, and Henderson authorizes the Director of Public Property to purchase flood-prone property located at 724 Heights Street for Metro Water Services. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Councilmember Glover?
Just very quickly, Chair. What is I was trying to read it in the analysis. The purchase price is 206. I think, am I reading that correctly, Mr. Cooper?
Correct.
All right. And how did we arrive at that price, please? Is that just a standard appraisal?
Appraisal of the fair market value for that particular property.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Glover. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We recommend approval. RS 2019-76 approves a grant from Keep Tennessee Beautiful to the Metro Public Works Department for additional litter prevention activities. Is there a motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. Resolution 2019-84, Hall, requests the Metro Water Services Department to upgrade, retrofit, and/or construct all existing culverts, inlets, storm drains, and ditches within the T2 Rural Neighborhood Policy and T3 Suburban Neighborhood Policy to current stormwater management manual standards by January 1, 2025. Is there a motion? Do we have a letter? We do not have a letter from, it will be deferred by rule. Thank you for that question, Mr. Glover. All right, we've got a late filed item that should be in the package. I'm the sponsor. Approves a grant from the Tennessee Department of Finance and Administration to the Metro Police Department to fund the position of VOCA, Law Enforcement Victim Coordinator, to enhance services and serve more victims. Is there a motion? I'm going to let the police department talk about why it needs to be late filed, hopefully.
Amy Griffith Taylor with the Family Intervention Program with the Police Department. I didn't hear your question.
Just why it's late filed. I understand there's some time urgency with the grants, and maybe you could tell the committee about that.
Yeah, late file. It's been between what we needed to get back from the state to be able to present it here. So we were just waiting on the state to give it to us, and by the time they gave it to us, we were.
So I understood that if we didn't get it approved tomorrow, that it would impact the dollar amounts of the grant. Is that right?
Well, yes, it will, because they will look at starting it later. So
Okay.
that's why, yes.
Committee, I was told that just due to the slowness of getting action from the state, that if we delay this, it'll impact the dollar amount, and that's why it was brought to me as late filed. Is there any discussion thank you. Is there any further discussion about that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we recommend approval. All right, we're going to move on to bills on second reading. First is BL 2019-12, Mendez, Hager, and others, approves a lease agreement from the Metro Board of Parks and Recreation and the Sports Authority for a community ice hockey and skating recreation complex located at 1 Bellevue Place, 7638 Highway 70 South. There, can I have a motion first? And there's also an amendment that I'm gonna, if somebody can move the amendment, I'll have our council director describe what's in the amendment. I'll move it. Mr. Cooper?
Sure. So the amendment does several things. First, it incorporates the facility management and use agreement, which is a separate agreement between the Sports Authority and Mid-Ice LLC. It incorporates that agreement into this lease agreement. It adds a provision stating that assignments of the lease agreement would require approval of the council. If the management and use agreement ever terminates, then the lease agreement would automatically terminate. It adds a provision so that the lease term coincides with the term of the facility management and use agreement so that those two terms are consistent with each other. And it expressly provides that Metro is not responsible for any utility costs associated with operation.
And thank you. See Mr. Councilmember Druffel.
Are there any income streams from this at all? It looks like we're paying for it, but it doesn't seem to be there's anything coming back to help pay for it.
There is, the income stream goes to, from this lease, there is not. There's just the nominal rent. However, the facility management and use agreement has an income stream that will come back to the Sports Authority to be used for capital expenses associated with the facility in the future.
But nothing to help pay for the costs of the facility.
Well, for so the Mid-Ice LLC is covering the operational costs for the facility. So there'll be no cost to Metro for operating it. The capital cost will be funded through the revenue that the Sports Authority receives. But as far as the any additional revenue coming to Metro, there would not be any. And that's modeled after the Fordyce Antioch Center. It's the same arrangement that Metro has with Mid-Ice for that operation.
So is that, I'm new, but is that typical of where we fund a facility like this without any return?
I can't really say it's typical because we don't do these types of deals all the time. I mean, this was a special arrangement with the Mid-Ice LLC, which is a subsidiary of the Predators, to encourage and promote youth hockey in Nashville. And so it was between the Parks and Sports Authority, that was the motivating factor. But as far as receiving rent back to Metro, we have to be careful from a bond law standpoint, and that if rent comes back to Metro, that could jeopardize the tax-exempt status of the bonds. So that's the primary reason you don't see rent coming to Metro whenever general obligation bonds are used.
Okay, it just seems that we're spending $20 million and we're getting a great facility, but not really being able to see anything in return. So anyhow, it looked like an exceptional idea there. Okay, thanks.
I'm going to call on Councilman Glover next, and then I'll maybe come back and comment on that. Go ahead, Mr. Glover.
I'm merely going to guess that what we're going to say and what I'm going to say is probably very similar. I mean, it's one of the things that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cooper, the bonds or the repayment is done out of our operational fund. But as far as the revenue of, quote, anything that comes back in because of the tax status of the bonds that were issued under the general obligation, this one basically flows as almost any other facility. Yeah, the ice piece of it's a little bit different But outside of
Right,
that,
so-
it's pretty much so.
Yeah, for example, this
Yeah.
was built in conjunction with the community center out there in Bellevue. Well, obviously, there's no revenue stream associated with the community center, which was also built with general obligation bonds, and so that's just paid out of the operating fund.
Right, which I guess for simplistic phrases, I'll say, everything we do on geo bonds, the repayment comes back from operational funds each
Correct.
year. So I don't know if that's what you were about to say, Chair, but it kind of looked like that maybe you and I were thinking in the same arena there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen.
So in Article 3 of the lease agreement, I mean, there's a payment schedule on the revenues. Do we have any idea what that might, I mean, do we have some estimates on what we think that will be? And how closely that
Well,
might
no,
align?
I mean, it depends on the amount of operating revenue generated, and then after year 3, it's the amount of revenue minus a
Management
set number, and then that's what the Sports Authority would receive. But I don't know that if we don't know specifically what those amounts will be.
We don't have any projections on that,
We don't.
do we? We don't.
We don't.
No, and in addition to what Councilman Glover had commented on, I was going to comment that, so the thing we should care about is the way it came to us last time. The management agreement wasn't attached, and the lease was for up to 75 years, while the management agreement was for no more than 30 years, and there was a disconnect between the two documents. Now, management agreement is attached. They're coextensive. If one ends, the other has to end. And so I think the question you asked, Councilmember Allen, is probably the appropriate one. If the Sports Authority is keeping the obligation to make capital improvements, are they going to make enough money off this to pay for them? And we know the Sports Authority already signed off on it. Of course, we also probably know that Sports Authority does whatever the mayor's office asks them to do, probably. So that's a question I don't think we know the answer to. And then Mr. Druffel's question about trying to drill down on whether, did we just build a nice rink for some folks, and do we get enough out of it? That because of the change in administrations, I don't think we're necessarily going to hear somebody give us the business pitch about why that was an awesome idea or not. But I assume previous administration, the Sports Authority, did think it was a good deal. I'm going to call on Mr. Glover.
So, Director Cooper, let me ask the question perhaps this way. If the capital expenditures were greater than whatever the revenues received by the Sports Authority, would we, the city, I'm certain they would come to us and ask us to make up the difference with some type of bonding capacity, or are we basically relieved of all obligations from this day going forward on any capital expenditures that they may want out here, and it has to be solely funded out of the revenues they collect?
No, I mean, they could come, because it's a metro facility, they could come back to the council and ask for future improvements years down the road.
Right. Okay. And of which I think that's really kind of the thing as we go down the road to kind of keep an eye on. All right. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Zora.
Thank you, Chair. It's along the same line, but I wanted to ask, since we have a similar facility in Antioch, do we have an historical data of how that's been doing to be able to compare?
Monica may be able to speak to that.
I think the short answer is not today. I don't know whether it's available or not. Councilmember Allen.
Thank you. I did think of one question. It would be great to ask someone if they could provide that, whether we vote today or not. I'd like to get that. Can we ask for that information?
I think Ms. Falk-Knotson's back there. I don't think she heard the question. The question is, now that we have the several years of operation for the Antioch Ice Center, do we know how it is performing financially, and is there a model for how this one might perform?
Compared
I think
to
is
the capital needs.
Yeah, compared to the capital needs of the facility.
Well, I asked that question to them last week, and we were having that same discussion. And so at this point, the Mid-Ice has not come to the Sports Authority and asked for any money for any capital expense or improvements. They've made some of the improvements that they've made to date have been mostly technology. They've replaced televisions. They did that at their cost, even though in the agreement that is Sports Authority's equipment. The same thing with ice skates. But at this point, the Sports Authority has not had to put in any money towards capital or any expenses.
Thank you.
I'd also say the Mid-Ice is working on working to get us some information just in terms of life expectancy of the equipment, and so we hope to have that in the next maybe week or so, and we can share that with you when we receive that too.
And the equipment replacement you were referring to is the Antioch Center, right?
No, actually the Bellevue.
So the replacing the skates and the TVs and
The
all that was
replacement
for
of the
Antioch.
skates and the televisions was at Antioch.
Okay.
Mid-Ice is working to provide additional information on life expectancy of equipment at Bellevue and what we can expect moving forward.
Councilmember Allen?
So one more question about scheduling. So I do know that there is a huge need for additional skating facilities for children who want to be involved in ice hockey programs, and that's a great thing for kids to have something to do to keep them healthy after school. Do we have information on scheduling? This may be a Ms. Volknotson question as well. And how much time it's available for their use as opposed to any professional skater use?
She can probably describe it. I looked online just myself a few weeks ago, and there's open ice time to the public every day. I think.
Public as well as youth hockey. Do we have?
And youth hockey, the leagues. I mean, at one point they were open from I think 5 a.m. to 1 a.m. just accommodating the different various leagues.
Okay.
So they are committed to the community and providing ice.
Great. So we clearly have to acknowledge this is a great asset for the community. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. We've got the amendment before us. It's been properly moved and seconded, and there's no further discussion. All in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Somebody want to move the bill? Was there a second for that? Any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we recommend approval as amended. BL 2019-33, Mendez, Hancock, and others establishes a program for the purpose of providing assistance to low-income elderly residents of the metro government for fiscal year 2019 and 2020. Is there a motion? So it's been properly moved and seconded, especially for the new council members. I asked Mr. Toller if he would come today and talk about this program. And in particular, I know people always ask questions, Mr. Toller, about, well, can we make the threshold higher, like how much discretion we've got? And maybe if you could make sure to talk about what we're limited by state law, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Councilman members. This appropriation each year in our budget, there is an appropriation of how much money we have to spend as far as subsidies to elderly taxpayers and disabled. This amount that's in here, $29,270, was raised to $29,860 by the state. At the time when you passed this appropriation on June the 18th, that's the night I was being appointed, and so we did not get the new information until the annual meeting from the state for the tax relief program, which was in July. And so immediately when I saw that, I thought, well, we need to correct that and raise it to the amount that the state has. The amounts for the elderly for this year, the elderly and disabled, the state, we have an amount of $756 that will go towards someone's tax in the urban service, and $660 in the general service area. And the person has to be 65 years old with an income of less than the $29,860 for the tax relief and $42,620 for the tax freeze program. Are there any other questions related to that?
We may. I'm going to call on Councilman Glover first.
Just very quickly, Mr. Toller, if you would, could you say, I don't know, it's pretty hard to hear. What's the amount on the freeze where they're frozen? And I couldn't hear what that is.
The freeze is $42,620.
So
and the tax relief program is $29,860.
Okay. And the money that's budgeted in our operating budget every year, does all of that get utilized, or is there money left over because some people are not aware and haven't taken advantage of the opportunity?
This last year, we turned back about $1 million from the $3.9 million.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
And this year, we've made some changes on how folks are notified. We put on the outside of the envelope, you may qualify for the tax relief program. We put inside, instead of the brochure that is a lot of reading material, we put a flyer in there that encourages them to look at their income, look at their Social Security, and whether they might qualify, and if they do, to come and see us, or at least give us a call, and we can go over the program with each person. And we are going out into all the council districts where we're invited to make the program available, and we can sign them up right then if they have the information. We're going to the Council District 33, I think, on Thursday night, and I think that will be a pretty good group of folks, and we will go over this program in detail. Anything that I can answer anyway, I'll be glad to do so.
I'll just ask this. If any district council member wants to have an event in their district to let their constituents know about this, should they just reach out to you or somebody in particular at your office?
Well, they can reach out to me, or they can reach out to Wanda that's in our office, or either Terry Feeney that's also in the office that's working on our tax outreach program to try and reach as many people as possible.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Mr. Toller from the committee? Thank you, Mr. Toller.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time and appreciate you updating that number for us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion about this? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Any opposed? We recommend approval. That's all the items we have on the agenda, but let me mention three things real quick. One is, please remember that the comptroller for the state of Tennessee will be here on November 13 in the chamber. We're going to start we're planning from 4:30 to 6:30. For the first hour, the water department is going to talk about water rates. The comptroller will be available during that first hour to answer questions. The second hour will be the comptroller making a presentation about Metro's finances. So again, that's November 13, next Wednesday, 4:30 to 6:30. And then I wanted to point out two bills that are on first reading that I would appreciate committee members considering co-sponsoring. One is BL 2019-43. That's on top of page 11 of the agenda. That basically, I'm paraphrasing, says it would make it an ordinance that if the executive branch gets bad financial news from the state of Tennessee, that they would be required to share it with the council. And in particular, what's on my mind is I've seen in conversations with the water department various communications that have come in about the water department over the last couple of years, and I don't think any council members were aware of that. And so this ordinance would make it so there'd be a requirement to share communications like those with the council. So that was BL 2019-43. And then the other one is BL 2019-46, which was prepared in cooperation between the Water Department and Council Director Cooper. That would make it so the Water Department would be required to provide an annual report to the council and come make a presentation to the council. So this idea of the Water Department's balance sheet was basically losing money through 2016, 17, 18, and I don't know how many council members are actually aware of this. Maybe none, maybe one or two. This would make it going forward where there would be an automatic mechanism every year for the council to get some visibility into the Water Department's finances. And they're on board with it. They did the first draft. Mr. Cooper tweaked it. So I'd ask that y'all consider signing on to BL 2019-46 also. Both of those are on first reading. And unless, Mr. Glover?
So with regards to 43, would the requirement be that the administration would have to provide it to us, or are we asking the state to provide it?
The administration.
The administration, okay.
Yeah, I don't think we could bind the state if we wanted to.
And then realizing we've got a lot of stuff coming up with water here pretty soon, and perhaps you know the answer much better than the rest of us. What's the timeline look like as far as, do we have until January 1st to approve the new rates for the water? After that point, if we don't for some reason get there, what's the penalty for us not arriving at an answer? I guess maybe the question is to Mr. Cooper.
I'll tell you what I know, and then we can have Mr. Cooper round it out. I've been told that sometime in the middle of November, the state board that's been overseeing the department being a distressed water department will issue an order that says shall, that the city shall institute the new rates by January 1. And so there's not going to be a lot of discussion. We're doing it or they're doing it. Rates are going in effect January 1. That'll leave us 4 meetings to get it passed. I have, along with Council Member Henderson, set up the meeting on November 13, specifically in an attempt to answer everybody's questions before we get to second reading. And so we have 4 meetings. I'd like to give everybody the holidays off from thinking about this and try to do it in 3 meetings. Otherwise, I understand by the time we get to third reading, there should be a state order requiring it.
Okay. And when we come together on the 13th to talk in greater detail about this, at that point, will we have a report from the comptroller on the rates that have been submitted versus what they think we have to have? I mean, how extensive will that report be?
I don't think, the comptroller will be here on the 13th, and I went with the mayor to visit with the comptroller at the beginning of October. Right. Mayor Cooper specifically asked at that meeting whether the comptroller thought that the proposed rates that were coming out of the water department were appropriate to address the state's concerns about the water department, and the comptroller office personnel indicated that they thought the proposed rates were appropriate and always they didn't have any changes. And so I'm anticipating from that this state order that we expect to be coming will specifically require the rates that have been proposed to be implemented. Does that answer your question? Yeah,
and I guess the question I'm trying to expand upon a bit is the rates that have been submitted, are they going to say, yep, that's what you need to do, or or will they give an analysis of saying, well, that may be it may be more than should have been necessary, or it may not be sufficient. So how in depth do we anticipate the comptroller's report coming back to us on the recommended rates that have been submitted at this point?
I don't know the answer to that question. I know that they feel that they're sufficient. I don't know the answer to the question of whether they feel like there's cushion in them. I don't know whether Mr. Potter has an opinion about that. He just had a look of unhappiness as I said his name. Sorry about that.
Councilman, our expectation at the hearing on the 19th with the comptroller is that they'll instruct us to implement the rates as presented. We work closely with the comptroller through this process to make sure that they consider it adequate, and I don't expect at all for them to state that they're not sufficient or that they're too much.
Thank you. And then, Mr. Glover, I'll be happy to convey to the comptroller's office that there's a specific question about whether they think there's any cushion where they could theoretically be lower and still be adequate to address the system's financial issues.
Yeah, I just think it's probably incumbent upon us here to make sure we've asked that question, because obviously we don't want people giving us more money than is absolutely necessary. And so it just, and it may well be it's right on the mark. I think it's worth the question.
I will give them a heads up that that question will be asked.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Potter. Any other questions about this topic? All right, seeing none, then we'll be adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.org.